trying to find a way.
These are the 5 abiotic factors.
Number 1, we have light. Plants can get varying amounts of light depending on where they're facing. Without adequate light, carbohydrates cannot be manufactured. The energy reserves, therefore, are depleted and the plants end up dying.
Next, we have wind. Wind can play a role in deciding what plants thrive where. In a windy area, you would find trees with thicker stumps compared to less windy areas that will have more delicate plants, whose spores are light and don't need to travel too far.
Number 3 on our list is soil. Soil can change plant growth by affecting the movement of water, air, and nutrients to plants, as well as having different structural properties that suit different plants better. For example, how a big oak tree can't grow in soft, loose soil because it can't be well supported.
And now we have water. This plays a huge role in the environment. The shape of the surrounding landscape and placement of underwater aquifers helps decide where most of the water lands up, consistently grouping all of the plants that require more water than ones further away.
Lastly on our list is space, which is number 5. A defining characteristic that is almost the first thing you notice about any plant, which is the size of it. The size of the plants can be affected by the amount of space available to them. You won't find a fern growing in a crack, but you will find mosses. And this is an example of how space affects plants. Now we have 2 terms, asexual versus sexual. Plants can either reproduce sexually or asexually. Sexual reproduction involves the fusion of gametes from 2 parents, leading to genetic diversity among offspring, which enhances adaptability to changing environments. Asexual reproduction, on the other hand, produces genetically identical offspring from a single parent, limiting adaptability. Thus, sexual reproduction is generally most effective in responding to changing environmental conditions due to the genetic variation it generates. Now we have the 4 main plant groups. First on our list is bryophytes. Bryophytes, mostly made up of mosses and liverworts, are found thriving in damp, wet, shady areas generally near or around water. Water is needed for reproduction and fertilization in bryophytes. Water is vital as it is what carries the sperm to the egg. In order for fertilization to occur within bryophytes, the sperm must be transported to the archegonium by means of water. These gametes, egg cell and sperm cell, are produced on the gametophytes. Spores are formed on bryophytes instead of seeds. The sporophyte generation comprises a capsule which produces spores by means of. Number 2 is pteridiophytes. Pteridiophytes, like ferns and horsetails, thrive in moist, shaded environments with well-drained soil. They prefer moderate temperature and can be found in a variety of habitats. While they need moisture for growth, excess water can be harmful. Pteridiophytes, like bryophytes, need water for reproduction and fertilization. This is because the haploid sperm cells need to move from the antheridium, male reproductive structure, to the archegonium, the female structure. The processes of the cell moving is called fertilization. Once fertilization occurs, the fertilized egg develops into a diploid zygote. This saprophyte makes something called sori under the leaves. Using sporangia, it produces haploid spores that will explode out when the sori has matured. Gymnosperms produce seeds rather than spores. Seeds are typically contained within cones, and once they mature, they are dispersed by various methods such as wind, gravity, or animals.
And now we have gymnosperms. Gymnosperms are well adapted to inhabit places where water is scarce, extremely cold, or extremely dry conditions. Gymnosperms do not require water whatsoever for reproduction or fertilization, as they are terrestrial plants, so pollen movement is mainly caused by air with the aid of biotic pollinators. In gymnosperms, pollination involves the transfer of pollen from the male cone to the female cone. After the transfer, the pollen germinates to successfully form the pollen tube and the sperm required for fertilizing the egg. The gymnosperm forms seeds that are said to be naked, as they are not encapsulated by an ovary. Once the bracts of the female cone open, the seed is dispersed by means of wind.
And last on our list is angiosperms. Angiosperms, or flowering plants, have reproductive structures known as flowers, which consist of sepals, petals, stamens, and pistils. Sepals protect the flower bud, while petals attract pollinators. Stamens produce pollen containing male gametes, consisting of an anther and a filament, while pistils contain the female reproductive parts, stigma, style, and ovum. Reproduction in angiosperms involves pollination, where pollen is transferred to the stigma, followed by fertilization, where male gametes fertilize female gametes within ovaries. This process leads to seed formation within the ovary, which matures into a fruit